ready? Mason County Joint Planning Commission now in session. Roll call, please.
David Reed.
Here.
John Hutchings.
Here.
John Best.
Here.
Gerald Woods.
Here.
Rick Lawrence.
Here.
Michael Parker.
Here.
Jason Gifford.
Here.
George Larger, I'm here. Michael Clark.
Here.
Okay, oath of office.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief Gifford, you can join me, sir. Have you in here and over here face me? Yes, sir. Thank you for your service. You certainly got a smile with that for giggle, okay? Raise your right hand. All officers, before they enter upon the execution of the duties of their respective offices, shall take the oath prescribed by Section 228 of the Kentucky Constitution. Wherefore, the undersigned was administered the constitutional oath of office as follows. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and be faithful and true to the Commonwealth of Kentucky, so long as I continue a citizen thereof, and that I will faithfully execute, to the best of my abilities, the office of board member of the Maysville Mason County Joint Planning Commission according to law. And I do further solemnly swear that since the adoption of the present Constitution, I, being a citizen of this state, have not fought a duel with deadly weapons within this state nor out of it, nor have I sent or accepted a challenge to fight a duel with deadly weapons, nor have I acted as a second in carrying a challenge, nor aided or assisted any person thus offended, so help me God. You say I do.
I do.
You say I do, and I say well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to recognize Kirby Rosser for his service. He's resigned, and we'll be needing another replacement.
Yes, sir. You're wearing through them, Mr. Chairman.
I know.
Yeah, and he resigned by email, and we thank him for his service.
Okay. All right, next on the agenda, officer election for secretary.
So Kirby was the secretary, so we need the secretary.
I nominate John Hutchins.
He's up front.
I think he should be.
Vice chairman.
Well, yours is next.
Yeah.
Double duty?
Double zero.
So who else? Who wants to be? Most of what you do is you just sign the items back.
Michael Parker.
Yep, I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion to elect Michael Parker as secretary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
You vote for that too?
I did.
Okay, minutes of the May 6th, 2026 regular meeting. Before I ask for motion, is there any corrections, deletions, or additions need to be made? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved. Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Old business. Matter of records, findings of fact, zone text amendment, proposal, public hearing, qualified manufactured homes. Is there any corrections, deletions, or additions need to be made out? Hearing none, do I have a motion to enter that in matter of record?
All motion.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good. Takes us down to new business.
Real quick. Need to do secretary sign.
Okay, new business, public hearing, zoning map amendment application, Kevin Hill, 1440 West Martin Luther King Boulevard. Need a motion to go out of our regular meeting into a public hearing?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're in the public hearing. George?
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody, welcome to the one public hearing we have tonight. It is regarding a zoning map amendment application from Mr. Kevin Hill for the property located at 1414 West Martin Luther King Boulevard. At this time, I would like to offer the following evidence into the record that this public hearing was noticed to the public. I'm sorry?
I can't hear.
Okay, I'll try to speak loud. Here is a signed and notarized affidavit that first-class mail notifications were sent to adjoining property owners. Here is an image of the sign erected on the property. And here is a printed copy of the digital tear sheet used to generate the advertisement in the Ledger Independent. All members of the public will be given the opportunity to speak on this matter. We require that you state your names and addresses before you do. Show of hands, who here would like to speak during this public hearing? Okay, so if you plan to speak or think you might speak, please stand up and raise your right hand. We can always swear you in before you speak if you haven't been sworn in, but it's important that we swear you in because otherwise the Planning Commission cannot use your testimony. So if anybody else wants to, okay. So do you swear or otherwise affirm to tell the truth? Please say I do.
I do.
All right, excellent. So at this time, I invite the applicant to address. Oh, right.
So I would like to disclose that my brother-in-law is the applicant's legal counsel. I do not have a financial interest in this project, but if anybody has an objection to my sitting on this board and voting on it, please speak up.
I do see that as a conflict of interest.
I think I think you are only required to recuse if you have a direct or indirect financial interest in the application. Having said that, if a member of the public feels that this creates an air of impropriety and you want to withdraw from consideration and voting, I think you would be within your rights to do so.
Okay, well, since she has an issue with it, I will recuse myself from voting on it.
Withdraw from consideration of
Withdraw
voting.
from consideration.
Yeah, okay. So you need to leave the room until the public hearing is
It's probably appropriate.
Okay.
All right. At this time, I invite the applicant to speak.
Chairman, Commission, Doug Peterson, representing Mr. Kevin Hill, who is an interested party, interested in purchasing the property, the aforementioned property, 1414 Martin Luther King Boulevard. Such property is currently zoned as, I believe, a P1. I might have my numbers wrong, but a P1, which is zoned for small office or professional office use. Mr. Hill's interest in the land is to convert that to a B1, I believe, which is or B2, which is a business use with the intentions of putting a boutique hotel on the property. Such hotel would be approximately 4 stories high, 90 rooms, boutique hotel. Mr. Hill does not currently own the property, is under contract. The current owners have signed an affidavit consenting to the zoning change, which I believe is part of the package. And we would just ask for your consideration in accepting that zoning change. Thank you.
Well, a couple of points. On the map that you sent, I'm a little confused about the property in blue, and that's how the road splits it. Is that road still a road, or is the Kent Point way dissect through that road?
I'm sorry, what are we talking about?
Sky blue on your diagram, that one there on the top.
Yes.
That road is the current road there, or
Yes. There is another small triangular-shaped property on the opposite side, on the western side, that is also zoned B1 professional office.
and if this was purchased, you would both park the same address?
I don't think that property has anything to do with it.
No, the small triangular properties outside of this,
So it's not as part of this,
it's not part of this purchase consideration.
So Mr. Peterson is talking about the triangular property to the east. You're talking about the one to the west across the street.
Okay.
Neither one is part of this. I'm clear on that.
It is. The sky blue parcel is what he's discussing, what he's questioning.
Right. The only property we're talking about here is on the eastern side. Yes, right. There's also, Mr. Peterson thought you were asking about the triangular property that's zoned TH1 that's east of it. Because we talked about this, we wondered if that was part of this.
I was. And I asked if that was, if he purchased, was that one purchase or was that a different address? That on the website is not part of this consideration.
Neither this property nor that property is part of this.
Correct.
Yes.
But the sky blue, the one I was talking about, to the west of the road, is not part of this application or consideration or under contract, or we being, he's not trying to purchase that piece at all.
I'm not trying to purchase that piece. Just the one parcel, 14.
Just for clarification, George, too, going from P1 to B2, both of them have the same height restrictions.
50 feet.
Each, it can already be built a 50-foot office building on it right now,
Yes.
without any rezoning, without much effect on this board. We do not vote on that because it's already zoned that, and it's a 50-foot office building there.
Correct. And it's useful to think of, so B2 highway business is like the general business classification along the highway. Technically, this isn't along the highway, but it does have a highway address. It is addressed for part of the highway. So, pretty much all the things you can do in P1, you can do in B2, but most of the things you can do in B2, you can't do in P1. P1 is specifically for office building stuff, and we have a chart for that. And then B2 is like lots of other stuff, including what you can do in P1 generally. Does that make sense? Any other questions?
I have several more.
Go ahead.
Oh, sure. Under your first paragraph, that you described what this project was, George, I think you mentioned the demand for hotel living arrangements.
Yes.
When I think of hotel, I think of people moving or what's it called? Reserving a spot and they're out a day or so, or they're leaving. Hotel living arrangements kind of sounds like it. Is that more long term, or is that has something like that ever been discussed?
I mean, hotels can be 1 or 2 days, or you can have people living in hotels for weeks or months at a time. It doesn't really distinguish between the two.
So if one would live there for months, it would still be under the same classification as be allowed.
Yeah. It's not ideal. Oftentimes when there's a shortage of housing in an area, sometimes people are forced to live week to week in a hotel. That could happen. I don't know if that's the case, could be the case.
And the last question I got right here.
Just, sorry to jump in on that. Your question is this expected to be an extended stay versus a traditional hotel? Yeah. I don't know that that's been contemplated yet. I think that's yet to be determined.
And then I guess another question that I had regarding that was, has Mr. Hill ever, the application and the picture that we got is obviously like an AI drawing, or at least a pop-in. It shows a 6-story building on a property that's not this. It doesn't show any schematics for parking or any adjacent how the views would look. Is there that available, or?
So there was one submitted with it, but the AI used that triangular property, so I didn't include it for you guys. And keep in mind, I mentioned this in the staff report. The zoning code would require a buffer, a 20-foot buffer all around this, wherever it adjoins single-family dwellings or TH1 land. So that would have to be taken into account too. There is going to be, if this happens, even if there was an office building here, which is permitted under the current zoning classification, they would still need a 20-foot buffer around it where it adjoins single-family dwelling and TH1. Pretty much everything on the eastern side of the road. There would need to be a 20-foot buffer in between the residential ranges and the residences around.
plan that you were given, you tried to do a schematic of it and it put it to the parcel to the west, is that what you said?
So it thought, somebody did this with AI and it included the parcel to the east, that triangular one that's zoned TH1. Interesting thing about that parcel, PBA has no record of who owns it. So it's certainly not part of the purchase. It's thought that it's owned by the neighborhood, but he doesn't have an owner of record. But this will definitely not use it, and I didn't include that little rendering because it wasn't correct, because it took into account that triangular parcel, and I didn't want to make you guys think that it included it.
Ask you to speak up a little louder. I can't hear what you're saying, or
Yeah, we can try.
anybody.
So the question is, there is a rendering, or there was an attempt to render what this would look like on a 4-story building with parking and orientation of that on this particular land. I'm having a hard time seeing that on this small piece and the parking and how it kind of orients itself.
There is a rendering. The parking does, as Mr. Larger is going to flow onto the parcel that is not part of this parcel, which was one of the problems with the AI drawing. Another one, easy to point out, we're just contemplating a 4-story building versus a 6-story. But yeah, those drawings exist and can be shared.
Well, just for point of clarification, 6 stories wouldn't even be allowed.
Fair.
Unless you had
Yeah.
5-foot stories.
Stories, right.
Well, and parking is going to be a constraint too, because there are parking minimums. So that would determine also how many stories, how many rooms it has to, because you still have to do site planning with this, and that 20-foot buffer is going to be quite a constraint as well.
Get that clarified, if I understand what the gentleman said. You're talking about 90 rooms, so you're talking about 90 cars plus employment on the worst case basis, so it would be surrounded 1 acre, 4 stories, 90 rooms, 90 cars plus employees.
So that's the plan today. I think that would all have to be surveyed and proven out.
You're not a math wizard, but that doesn't seem to fit.
Fair enough.
Well, let me look up the parking minimums. Let me find it.
We'll get to you in a minute.
Hotels and motels, the parking minimums are 1 space per sleeping room, plus 1 space per employee, plus 1 space per 50 square feet of meeting room with related facilities, if applicable, plus specified requirements for restaurants, if applicable. So this stuff would all have to be worked out to see what capacity it could be, and that would determine height, that would determine how much parking, and vice versa. So we're not to that whole...
And this board doesn't vote on that. It would have to meet those parking minimum standards for it ever to be approved for permit.
Yeah.
Did you take into account any construction or vegetation that would block sight line for people pulling out of that street with traffic coming from the east to the west?
Along the double-A highway?
Yes.
I haven't considered any of that, just, it's not along the double-A highway. I'm not sure if I understand your question.
Well, with the development to the right, if you're facing the double-A highway,
Okay.
is there any, does the Department of Transportation or anybody have any kind of impact in that decision-making decision because potential blocking the line of sight of traffic coming from the east to the west?
I don't think it would, because this is a city street, and it's outside the public, or the state right of way.
I find that hard to believe sitting at that street. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, it'll need an entrance off of the city street, but I don't know if there needs to be any modifications at the intersection. Is that what you're asking?
No, not at the intersection. I'm talking about the line of sight that people are going to have if they're attempting to pull out onto the double-A highway.
I don't think this is going to affect that.
I think it's in the blue. It's in the blue, maybe.
Well, I mean, that's part of the you guys have decided whether or not it's appropriate to go for one thing.
I guess there's some general questions, something that's a concern to me.
My understanding is there's a property in between the AA and this property.
That's the royal blue on the map, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is there any, what's the noise levels for, I mean, the consideration for the townhomes behind that? They put, air conditioning units or something in the back of the building, I'm assuming you can face it behind the building, have the better side facing the street, the double A. Is there a noise level for that, and something they have to adhere to?
Yeah, there's a noise ordinance. Yeah.
And do you know that off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head. I mean,
in your book, is it in your handy dandy book there?
no, actually, it's not in here. It's not in the zone.
Okay. So that would have to be addressed, which there's mitigations for that, there's coverings and things like that.
Yeah, but I don't know that would be.
Well, I was thinking the reason that goes back to the orientation question. You could orient that that parcel that no one knows who the owner is. If you had put some stuff on that side versus cutting up that property.
Well, there will be because it's zone TH1. It explicitly says buffer strip in between TH1.
When you're talking about buffer, what do you use? What type of buffer?
So that is, there are different options to that. So it has to be 20 feet. It could be the planting of trees and shrubs. It could be a fence or a wall. They have some different options on how to accomplish it.
And what about lighting?
We have a lighting ordinance
So,
for outdoor lighting, and it's specifically designed to minimize glare and light trespass. It's mostly for parking lots, which
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
so they'll have to adhere to that too.
What about this start? All right, go ahead.
Good evening, members of the Joint Planning Commission. My name is Greta Stanfield, and my sister and I own the property at 1581 McHugh Court. My connection to this neighborhood is deeply personal. My mother was one of the original owners in Rainbow Meadows. She purchased her home here as a retired widow because she valued what this neighborhood represented. Good neighbors, safety, peace, and a quiet place to live with dignity and security. Today she's 82 years old and she lives with Alzheimer's. As her condition has progressed, the familiar environment of McHugh Court has become even more important to her. Over the years, this neighborhood has truly become a village of caring neighbors, and they're all in this room. People who watch out for one another and help ensure the well-being of elderly residents like my mother. McHugh Court offers something that cannot easily be replaced: a sense of peace and safety, and neighbors who genuinely care. This decision is bigger than a hotel. It's bigger than one vacant lot. It's about whether the intent of zoning in this community still means something to the people who trusted it when they chose where to live. I respectfully ask that you deny this request to rezone this property from professional office P1 to highway business B2. The Land Use Management Ordinance states that its purpose is to protect the health, safety, welfare, character, and quality of life of the community, and to avoid incompatible land uses and congestion. This neighborhood is home to many retirees, widows, single female homeowners, elderly residents, hospice families, and young children who all depend on a peaceful and safe environment. For elderly residents like my mother, supportive neighbors and familiar surroundings are essential. Families walk through hospice care. They deserve dignity and comfort during some of life's most difficult moments. Parents bringing children to the nearby pediatric dental office expect a safe and manageable traffic environment. Increased commercial activity, traffic, congestion, lighting, increased waste with associated nuisance issues, and around-the-clock business activities directly affect the character of the neighborhood and the people who rely on it every day. Unlike a professional office, a hotel operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's fundamentally different from the original purpose and intent of professional office zoning, and represents a much more intensive commercial use than what nearby residents reasonably expect in this area. I recognize that the members of this Joint Planning Commission are leaders in our community who consistently look out for the best interest of our residents. I know several of you personally, and I've witnessed your commitment to our community through your service and leadership on behalf of the citizens of Maysville Mason County. That is why I trust that tonight's decision will be guided by the principles you have been entrusted to uphold. Planning commissioners are entrusted to make decisions based on the comprehensive plan, ordinance standards, compatibility of land use, traffic and safety impacts, and the overall public welfare. Those responsibilities directly apply to this request. The ordinance further states that amendments to the zoning map should align with the comprehensive plan unless the original zoning was inappropriate. No evidence has been presented showing that professional office zoning was inappropriate for this property. Respectfully, a 4-story hotel adjacent to retirees, widows, single female homeowners, elderly residents, assisted living properties, hospice families, and a pediatric dental office is not a minimal change. It permanently changes the character and activity level of the neighborhood. Before you vote, I simply ask each of you to consider this request not as a parcel on a map, but as a neighborhood. Consider how you would feel if a 4-story, 24-hour commercial business were proposed directly behind your home, your parents' home, or the homes of your children and grandchildren. Consider whether you would view that as compatible with the character of your neighborhood and the expectations you had when you chose to live there. Tonight, the residents of McHugh Court are asking for the same consideration. I respectfully ask that you apply those standards, consider the long-term impact on the residents who will live with this decision every day, and uphold the intent of the P1 designation. Tonight's vote will determine not only what can be built on this property, but whether the character and expectations of this neighborhood continue to matter. Thank you for your time and consideration.
My name is Richard Keita. I live at 1588 McHugh Court. I'm a property owner and resident of Rainbow Meadows, and I'd like to address the Commission regarding this zoning change. The subject property is part of a larger development that includes the McHugh Court community named Rainbow Meadows and future residential development to the south. At present, there are 23 property owners, and all are in agreement that the zoning should remain P1. The definition of P1 from the Land Use Maintenance Ordinance is the districts have been established to encourage the clustering of professional, medical, and related uses in areas which need to be protected from the encroachment of heavier commercial uses. The original developer's plan was to protect the planned development of Rainbow Meadows and future residential development to the south from heavy commercial use to keep it a desirable community. As such, they had the subject parcel of land zoned P1. As it was near the hospital, they were hoping to attract medical-type professional office buildings. This has not changed. A zoning change to B2 highway business will have a negative impact on the character, the intended purpose of the entire development. The subject property is surrounded on 3 sides, 2 by residential property, and the third side, and this is, I think you were talking about this earlier. I have a plat, a surveyor's plat from 2005. It shows it as a designated green space. The subject property is not adjacent to any highway. It is separated from the AA highway by residential property on each side. The only access is from a city side street named Kenton Point Way. The application for rezoning states, and I quote, "Minimal effect on the surrounding land uses and properties is expected." And this statement is based on what? No one asked any of the property owners and residents how they feel about the effect of building a 4-story hotel with parking and lighting in their backyard. All 33 property owners think it will have a major negative effect on their land uses and properties. There will be noise and commotion all day long and into the night as people come and go to a hotel. The proposed 4-story hotel will be right outside the bedrooms, patios, and decks of several homes, negatively impacting their privacy and enjoyment of their properties. It negatively affects the character, quality of life, and property values of the entire community. Again, from the Land Use Maintenance Ordinance, the use of land and structures, page 9. There are several points listed. I'm going to read 2 bullet points. I quote, "Preserve, enhance, and protect the character and quality of life of the community." Another bullet point says, "Encourage the best possible use of the land while avoiding the undesirable effects of overcrowding, congestion, and mixture of incompatible uses." Zoning B2 and building 4-story hotel on this small parcel of land in the middle of a residential community is in opposition to the intent of the P1 designation and the points I just quoted. It will negatively affect the character and quality of life in the present community. Rainbow Meadows, at present, is a highly desirable community. When properties go on the market, they sell fast for top dollar. The typical buyer is retired. Several residents, including myself, bought their property, planning to spend the rest of their lives in Rainbow Meadows. This is because the character of the entire development is commercial development supported by the existing P1 zoning of the subject property. I never imagined someone wanting to build a hotel inside a residential community where I live. For these reasons, I respectfully request that you vote to maintain the P1 designation to protect our community. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Greg Bentley. I'm one of the owners and the doctor at the Maysville Pediatric Dental Center. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight because this decision will have long-term consequences, not only for neighboring businesses, but for vulnerable populations that rely on this area remaining safe, accessible, and appropriately planned. This is not simply a request to change one parcel of land. It is a proposal that would fundamentally change the character and intensity of this corridor. The current P1 zoning serves an important purpose. It supports institutional, community-oriented, and lower-intensity uses that are compatible with nearby residential and healthcare facilities. Reclassifying this property to B2 would open the door to significantly more intensive commercial activity, including higher traffic volumes, delivery vehicles, extended business hours, and uses that may not fit the surrounding environment. In close proximity to this property are an elderly residential neighborhood, an assisted living facility, a hospice care facility, and a pediatric health care office serving children and families every day. Our pediatric office depends on safe and efficient traffic flow for parents bringing young children to appointments throughout the day. In fact, the safety and accessibility of this corridor was the key reason we chose the location for our practice. Many of our patients are very young children, including special needs patients already navigating stressful medical and dental situations. Increased traffic and congestion would create additional safety concerns for those families entering and exiting the area. Increased B2 commercial activity would also place additional strain on local roads and intersections that were not designed for high-intensity commercial use. I would ask the Commission to consider a key planning question. What substantial change in this area justifies moving this property from P1 to B2 zoning? To my knowledge, there have been no significant changes in this surrounding area that would support such a shift. The surrounding uses remain the same: care-related services, residential neighborhoods, and community-oriented facilities. The character of this area has not changed in a way that was justified, including broader commercial zoning in the middle of and once property is rezoned to B2, the impact is not limited to the current proposal. Zoning runs with the land. Future owners could pursue uses far more intensive than what is being discussed tonight. I would respectfully ask the Commission to consider whether this request is truly consistent with the intent of the comprehensive plan to establish. This corridor currently functions as a transition between residential, healthcare, and community uses, including general business zoning, risk creating incompatible commercial intrusion that could permanently alter the safety, stability, and character of this area. Growth and development are important. I understand that in business, but responsible development must also consider compatibility, public safety, traffic impacts, and the surrounding community. Tonight, I ask the Commission to carefully consider this rezoning would handle children, elderly residents, hospice patients, caregivers, healthcare providers, and the families who rely on this corridor every day. For those reasons, and because there has been no meaningful change in the area to justify such a zoning shift, I respectfully urge you to deny the request to rezone this property from B1 to B2. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, thank you all for having us here today. My name is Ruth Hickerson. I live at 1584 McHugh Court. Thank you for allowing our members and residents to address the rezoning request. We, the residents, met recently to discuss our and of 33 persons present, 100% agree we want to keep the current zoning. I'm not sure how often you're likely to get that many people to agree 100%, but I'm sure it's rare. Please consider this in your decision. As you have or will learn, the majority of residents are considered of the elderly population. Most are retired from careers including, but not limited to, teachers, nurses, East Kentucky Power employees, county circuit clerks, homemakers, administrative and circuit court secretaries, firemen, and other business employees. All of us are law-abiding citizens. I personally have lived there for 18 years. And while we have our services, we have never needed law enforcement in our neighborhood. Please consider this in your decision. With respect to the zone request, we have all purchased our townhomes knowing the adjoining properties have been zoned professional business, meaning doctors, lawyers, and such. Businesses that would be open during the day close at night. If granted as highway business 2, a hotel would include 24-hour traffic coming and going and possibly nefarious customers all hours of the day and night. Of course, lighting would be installed to make this hotel visible to customers. And air-boarding townhomes also. Please consider this in your decision. Also know that Rainbow Meadows covenants and restrictions, a legal document, prevents us from building any fences or earthen barriers from this proposed project, as written on page 4, item 9 of the covenants and restrictions. What does that leave for us to prevent prying eyes and even trespass onto our properties from this proposed 4-story, 90-room hotel? If trees are opted as the only barrier, which of course it isn't, and of course cameras on the backs of our homes to monitor activity, then would unduly burden each homeowner in a primarily elderly community with extra expenses. Please consider this in your decision. Please be aware of another viable option. For this project right down the highway from us, I have spoken to the realtor, and negotiation is most certainly an option for this 3.4 acres of property, still within the city limits, with road frontage on the AA highway adjacent to the bypass, which includes great visibility. It also has sewer, water, and electric on the property. The realtor says no one has inquired about this available property for this proposed hotel. And the best part is it's already zoned B2. However, also be aware one of our owners knows someone who's very interested in purchasing the 1.2 acre in question without the zoning change. Please consider this in your decision. In closing, I hope you will consider turning down the zoning request from professional business to highway business. I appreciate Kevin Hill's entrepreneurial spirit, but feel his project would be better placed elsewhere, as there are no benefits to our community by placing a 4-story, 90-room hotel between 2 residential zones. I'm absolutely certain Ms. Elsie Downing, original property, a 4-story, 90-room hotel, a 1.2 acre tract is inappropriate for this community. I'm sure she'll be proud of the assisted living facility, the hospice facility, the Rainbow Meadows subdivision, and the pediatric dental facility. Thank you for your consideration in this matter. Questions?
Anybody else?
My name's Chris Creed. I live at 1420 Kenton Point Way. So we're the unit that is most adjacent.
I apologize. Could you repeat your last name?
Creed, C-R-E-E.
Thank you.
Chris Creed.
And sir, will you swear in?
Yes. Yeah, I stood in the doorway. And I will swear and tell the truth. I live at 1420 Kenton Point Way, and we're the unit that is most adjacent to this property. Our main access is the side that faces the AA. So it's about, the property line's about 10 feet from our driveway, 30 feet from our main entrance. It's about 30 feet from our bedroom, which is my main concern. If this property is rezoned to B2, it opens it up to businesses that may be more 24-hour operating. You know, it could be a hotel, as this current proposal, if that doesn't go through, it could be a gas station or something else. When it stays P1, typically that's limited hours. It would, you know, being that close to our bedroom, we'd like to be able to sleep at night. So that would be of our preference, that you would keep it as P1 instead of switching it to P2. I just wanted to say that.
Anybody else?
My name is Roger McCall. I live at 1596 McHugh Court, and I'm thankful for this opportunity to address the commission. I've been asked to read a letter that it was written by a neighbor of mine named Shirley Taylor, who lives at 1593 McHugh Court, and it borders up against this proposed property zoning change. And it reads as follows. Dear Planning Commission, I am writing to formally express my strong opposition to the proposed rezoning of the above address from P1 office building to B2 highway business. While development is important to our community, this specific change in zoning would be detrimental to the long-term stability and character of our neighborhood. Retaining the current professional zoning is critical in several key reasons. 1, preserving community character. Professional buildings operate primarily during standard business hours, maintaining a quiet environment that respects the surrounding residential areas. A change in zoning to B2 highway business, by contrast, operates 24/7. It brings constant foot and vehicle traffic, late night noise, and delivery trucks that do not fit the established fabric of our community. 2, protected infrastructure. Our local roads and utility networks are scaled for P1 zoning. Converting this space into a B2 zoning, boutique hotel, or any other B2 facility will lead to significant traffic congestion, a higher demand for parking that often spills into residential streets, and increased strain on our sewer and storm drain systems. 3, safeguarding property values. Stable P1 zoning ensures predictable land use, which in turn protects property values for nearby homeowners and existing professional stakeholders. Introducing a boutique hotel and other B2 uses sets a risky precedent that could lead to continuous B2 zoning. 4, maintaining a stable tax base. Professional office P1 spaces consistently house long-term local businesses and services, providing steady tax revenue and daytime economic vitality. Relying on B2 zoning, boutique hotel, or any other B2 facility creates economic volatility that is deeply dependent on fluctuating trends. We need to thoroughly evaluate how our city grows, ensuring that any zoning code change aligns with the comprehensive plan and protects the citizens. I urge the Planning Commission to reject the rezoning request and preserve the P1 zoning. Thank you.
I want to let them all go first.
Oh, okay.
Hi, my name is Rita Bickley, and I just inherited the property at 1585 McHugh Court. My mother lived there until a year ago. She was hard of hearing and relied on the neighbors to let her know when there was anything that she needed to know as far as leaving a garage door up. This is a great neighborhood. I have a list of people who would love to buy this property, and I feel certain that something of this magnitude coming there. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. If you can just envision being in your bedroom, our property aligns this particular 1¼ acre. I can't envision 80 cars parking there, let alone a hotel and cars. But the lights would come in off of vehicles right straight into the bedroom of 1585 McHugh Court, as well as Vicky, who lives part of that, and the others that are in line with that. Greta's property as well. All hours of the night, you would have lights shining in your bedroom windows. and people from all walks of life, and you have no idea who's basically in your back door with having something like that. A dumpster usually is in the back of the property. We all know what lives in dumpsters, and there you are not to go out on the patio. I think everything that everybody has already said, most everything else, but I truly feel like the property that we have, we wanted to keep in the family. Even though she's gone, we wanted to keep it and decide if we wanted it ourselves for the future. We're near the senior age. But I would ask that you would do unto others as you have them do unto you. Just think about if you would like your bedroom window to have lights shining all hours of the night, all walks of life, roaming in parking lots and dumpsters in your back door. And I truly mean about 20 feet from the property line. It gives all new meaning to reach out and touch someone.
Anybody else?
Okay, I didn't want to cut anybody off. My name is Robin David Rice. I live at 1410 Golf Manor Drive. So y'all don't know me, but I'm your neighbor. Peggy knows me, but I'm your neighbor. The reason I wanted them all to speak first is because I always say I've only lived here in Maysville 11 years, so I'm still a stranger. They've lived here. They can tell you about all the community impacts. I want to point out a couple of things. But one thing I do want to get into is the law, which often gets sort of the short shift in these kinds of decisions, the debates, things like that. One of the things I want to point out, comprehensive plan, AA highway, all this is made with that whole area there. They're looking at small scale. This is a transitional phase. It was a transitional phase, and I'm talking about geographical phase. When it was created, it's still a transitional phase now. Nothing has changed in that regard. So that's what the comprehensive plan sees this as. To change that, an applicant has to have a burden of proof. They have to meet a burden of proof to say this is why either it's not in conformity with the original comprehensive plan, meaning that it was wrong then, we're going to change it now. We've got to make something that was wrong historically right now, and this is your opportunity to do it. I've heard nothing. If they can't do that, they have to show things that, like we've heard, you all know the drill, you all have to go down every time. Is there a substantial change in the character of the community that especially uniquely impacts this property, and is that through any action or inaction of the applicant? I don't even think you get there, because it's just not. We talk about all this, but let's not lose common sense. I was thinking, where's our next 4-story hotel around here besides maybe French Quarter? A lot of our other hotels are not of a 4-story, and I'm talking about permitted in business, already permitted areas. They're not putting up a 4 or 6-story hotel. It's a much smaller, like I say, French Quarter is about it. Those are not in residential areas. Comprehensive plan, the whole principle back when Euclid, the original constitutional law case on this was decided, was that we want to keep land uses of a consistent nature and character together. That is a protected constitutional interest, and that was the case that first recognized it. That's why it puts the burden of proof on the person who wants to change it. That burden has not been met. I don't even see any actual proof. It's been a long time since I've had to cite the case to you that I don't even remember the case. Mr. Parker, I can't remember whether you were on the board the last time I argued. I know Mr. Teagarden was still here. But the Court of Appeals set down the standard. You can't just turn in an application and say this is what we want to do when you're asking for a map. Because unlike conditional uses permits, which can be revoked, variances where you all get to contour the conditions that are being put on the use of the property, a map amendment says, hey, all's fair game. Whatever you can put in any business use can be put in this property now. We no longer have any control other than what's already put in place on business uses. So the Court of Appeals, which set down the controlling cases, there have to be site plans that are put in with the application. You can't just rely on a possible, well, we hope to with 6, maybe 4 stories, who knows. There have to be actually, the application has to give you all definite, concrete information, according to the Court of Appeals, that you can actually make an opinion on. Otherwise, you're just going on, and testimony doesn't cut it, that it has to be in the form of whether it's site plans, whether it's surveys. A lot of this particular case, I heard they can apply for permits and this and the other. This particular Court of Appeals case said, no, you have to have them granted. You don't just say we're going to apply, you have to have them granted and show that this actually can be done. Otherwise, it's too hypothetical. That puts you in a position where you're making such a drastic, practically irreversible change in a vacuum. That is the law you have to follow. And so usually when we see a room full like this, y'all are in a rough spot. You're going to be here holding out your hair, trying to make an impossible decision. I maintain that it's actually really easy in this case because the standard of proof has not been met, not even at a facial level. And that opinion that I was talking about, and I've shared this before with council, says that the application will be held facially invalid if it doesn't, for I'm talking about a map amendment only, not conditional use permits, because of the substantial change that the applicant is being asked. That if they have not shown they've got an actual concrete plan, demonstrable evidence of how that plan is going to look, whether it's that evidence is surveys, site plans, etc., permits granted, I don't see that. So the decision is real easy, and you have to deny it. And that's what I request you do. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, any motion?
Can we have all the
you getting?
people involved stand up? All the people involved with this zoning request?
I think I know about who's all here. I would say the majority of people here from that subdivision. That's safe to say, isn't it?
Can you point them out this year?
Point them out, I don't know the neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
But I'm sure you're all represented. You're welcome to stand and show me. Please do.
Thank you.
Now, see if everybody get back in this.
Okay, got a motion to go out of public hearing. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Any further discussion?
Any questions about my staff report?
No, would you want to summarize that with your?
I can. Is there anything specific that you want me to summarize?
No, just maybe you got your recommendation and you just kind of walk us through that real quick.
I mean, my recommendation is to just contextually say yes or no. Make that recommendation to affirm or deny. I actually, you might have noticed this, because we're dealing with a comprehensive plan, I recycled a lot of the language from the data center staff report and just modified it for this, because generally speaking, comprehensive plans are supportive of economic development. Ours talks about basically kind of capitalize on physical infrastructure and transportation networks to build and convert economic revenue base, enhance the quality of life for existing residents, encouraging the reuse of vacant or underused properties, et cetera, et cetera. This was similar to the decision of data centers is economic development. I mean, it's pretty general, it's pretty broad, it's pretty vague. Infill development, which that's what this would be, is usually well encouraged. I do think it is noteworthy. I mean, a lot of people talked about, a lot of the testimony was about the encroachment of B2 land. It is noteworthy that almost the entire western side of that street is zoned B2 highway business. So I heard someone talk about how this is a commercial corridor. Well, the western half is. So this development could go on the other side of the road easily out. I did mention that probably, I mean, I wasn't here when this property was zoned P1, but it probably was zoned that way because it's probably a little bit less intensive than B2. I can't tell you that for sure. I'm not a traffic expert, but my son goes to the pediatric dentist office there, and there are cars coming and going constantly. So, I mean, I don't know how that would compare to a hotel on this particular property. But I think that's still really. I don't, so I think you could make a finding that it's consistent with the language in the comprehensive plan based on economic development. I don't know that I would say that this is noteworthy too, that this comprehensive plan talked about urban corridors, and this is a long one, so anything 1,000 feet on either side is you know, it's usually outside city limits, and this is pretty close to the city limits, is you know, up for grab for commercial, but of course you can't really cite the old comprehensive plan as being updated. But that's a lot of the reasons why I think the western side of the street is zoned B2 highway business. As to what, so there's the first prong. It's debatable whether or not this is inappropriately zoned and the B2 highway business is more appropriate. I mean, they're both commercial zoning classifications. Again, it's probably because of where it's located and the adjoining residential land uses that it's B2. That's the second prong. Third prong, as to whether or not there have been unforeseen changes of a physical, social, or economic nature. This is being applied for because of the proposed data center. But of course that hasn't happened yet, so I mean you guys don't have to necessarily cite that because until they break ground, if it actually happens, we don't know if it's going to happen. But it is 2 miles away, and the applicants, you know, stated that they were seeking this rezoning for hotel land use for that particular reason. So I think potentially you could find that in each one of the prongs. You know, I mentioned earlier that there's a lighting ordinance, there's a zoning, there's an outdoor lighting ordinance, there's a noise ordinance, and a landscaping buffer would be required between this, even if it was an office building, but any commercial use adjoining TH1 or any single family dwellings, they would need to have a 20-foot buffer strip. So that could reduce any negative externalities potentially that was required by the zoning code. Yeah, I think it is noteworthy. I think testimony was correct that generally speaking, P1 office land uses are really active during the day, during the workday, and at hotels, you know, there's more activities probably spread over the entire 24-hour day. So, yeah, I think that's what's doing the same.
I have a question. So if it wasn't for the data center, that wouldn't even be a thought about building this boutique hotel. Is that correct?
That's a question for the applicant.
I don't know that that's a true statement.
Well, it comes
But I don't know that I can answer that.
I feel like it probably has generated it. So, and you talk about, you know, stuff, you know, how everything would be modified, about how it would be monitored, about the lighting and the noise. How do you propose to do that? How do you propose to enforce something like that?
Well, they would have to show compliance with the zoning code and municipal code. The applicant, the developer.
Yeah, but that's not realistic. That's not a realistic thing. That sounds, that's ideal. That's not realistic.
Okay.
Have you been out to our place? Do you see how people live out there?
I put the sign up, yeah.
Well, no, did you go up into our neighborhood?
I have it. Yes.
So we're to be sacrificial lambs to have.
We're at a public comment.
Well,
Thank you for your
okay.
comment.
Mr. Reed, should Mr. Larger be a neutral participant?
I am a neutral participant.
Yeah,
I'm- I'm-
Doesn't sound like it. Sounds like you're in favor of the zoning thing.
I'm just giving them their information that they use to make their decision.
But that's not neutral.
Both sides.
Ma'am, I think he's addressing the application and the ordinance as it applies to the application. and he puts a staff report together for all applications, or the vast majority of the applications that come before the board, and he addresses generally in those staff reports the reasons why the commission would vote to approve, and he also addresses the reasons that the commission might vote to disapprove. So if you're hearing the reasons that the commission might vote to approve, it's because in George's professional opinion, he thinks that applying the application to the ordinance, those are the reasons that the commission could use. He also is pointing out the things that weigh against the application, but with you being as interested as you are as a resident, those might not ring as loudly in your ear.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
You're welcome.
I would ask that you recognize her as having the record reflect that she's objected to it. It sounds impartial, and that's preserved in the record then. She's allowed to object, though.
Any other questions? All right, then ask for a motion to either approve or disapprove the applicant as presented.
I'll move to disapprove as presented.
I have a motion to disapprove. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
What would be your justification?
Doesn't fit into the neighborhood. The traffic, I don't believe the proposed model would fit onto that land. The neighborhood behind his elevator would be looking straight into the third, fourth story, and buffer zone would be absolutely ineffective because of the height and the setbacks.
Okay, so we're going to do a voice vote, and so if we don't actually get 4 votes out of the 7, then I will entertain a motion to approve. But 4 is our threshold because we have 7 members. John Hutchins. And vote in the motion. You would have to vote yes for the denial. Don't vote no if you want to deny. You have to vote yes to deny. Yes. Do we understand that?
Make sure that the audience understands that, please.
Yes. So when they say this is a motion to deny, so if they say yes, vote aye, they are voting to deny. Does everybody understand that? Okay. John Hutchins.
Yes.
John Best. Gerald Woods.
Yes.
Rick Lawrence.
Yes.
Michael Parker.
Yes.
Okay. Jason Gifford.
Yes.
Okay. The motion to deny passed. Now, that being said, in 2017, the city passed KRS 100.2111. So if there is an interested party, either the city government or an aggrieved party wishes for the city government to make the final decision, then it would go to the city government. Otherwise, after final action of this, which is approving the findings of fact, 21 days after that, their vote, their recommendation becomes the final act, the final decision. Does everybody understand that? Okay.
No, can you repeat that again?
So, the state has a law that any place that has planning and zoning can adopt. It's KRS 100.2111. It's alternative. It's called alternative regulation for zoning. Normally, this board's recommendation would go to the city government in this case, and the property is within the city. However, I think this law was written to cut down on red tape. So, if everybody's cool with the decision, then 21 days after they approve their findings of fact, which will be at their next meeting, their decision becomes final and the city is left out of it. But if somebody comes forward, or the city itself requests that they make the decision, then it goes to the city under the previous process.
So if the city would come to you, then would the homeowners be notified that it goes to the city commission?
No, there would be no public hearing unless they wanted to have a public hearing. But more often than not, they depend on the record and the findings of this particular public hearing.
So are you saying the city could technically make the zoning change and us not be notified any additional beyond the decision of the committee?
Yeah, there's no vehicle for them to just notice people for it. They have to pay attention to what happens.
There still has to be a meeting and a hearing. That he was not saying that. It's not like there's going to be a sign posted or you're going to get mail like you did for this. Yeah, they just have to keep a watch on, look online, they advertise all their meetings.
But this only happens if somebody appeals within 21 days.
Yes.
Now, can the original applicant appeal?
Yes. And once the city to make the final decision, then the city will make the final decision.
That's what we want to be notified about. If somebody appeals, we ought to be able to go to the city too and say, put it on our side.
Well, that wouldn't be a public hearing.
So
you could be there, but unless they decided to hold a public hearing, and
I cannot see why the city government would give us their commission and just voted to die.
I've been representing this commission since 2017.
Yeah.
And in my experience, that's pretty rare. I'm not going to say it couldn't happen. It could happen, but I think that's pretty rare.
That's what I was saying.
Elected officials are loath to go against recommendations made by unelected.
I was going to just say that as far as everybody's worried about notice, the way it works is your right to get notices to the start of it. And once it's started, you've got to unfortunately keep up with yourself.
But as long as nobody appeals, this is a done issue then. In 21 days.
This application.
yeah, it'll be 21 days after the next meeting, which is when we'll approve the findings of fact that Michael will write up.
Now, there could be another application down the road.
But you would get notice. Yeah, it would be advertised.
George, wouldn't the city commission get copies that has this testimony in it?
Yes.
They get it tonight?
They will have everything, they will have everything that they had, plus the findings of fact. You see how we approved the findings of fact from last month? We have to approve that, then that's the 21 day. But if somebody comes tomorrow and, is an aggrieved person, I would take that as...
Well, in my opinion, and the person that's applying for the zoning thing, they don't even have a site plan. That ought to be out the window right now. We ought to be, if they want to have they ought to have everything laid out, how it's going to be built, every parking spot.
Well, that's a legal argument, and I'm not attorney.
I appreciate you agreeing with me, though.
We all know.
All those in favor say aye.